So, which is great. I think that's fantastic. That's the way you spend your Rotary time. I wanted to make just a few quick announcements for the club while we have a chance. First, the foundation grant applications have been released to the service committee chairs, so please pay attention to your committee emails and the announcements. The service committee chairs will be distributing those and then looking to assign the foundation grant applications for site visits. So remember, this is like a very important part of what our club does, right? We give about, I think, I was talking to Jim Lehman last week, I think it's gonna be about $270,000 this year. So we're gonna give out about $270,000 through the grant application process this year. So it's gonna be fantastic. Please get involved and engage in those committees so we can make more of an impact in our community. That Foundation Advisory Committee meeting then to recommend the approval of those grants will be October 30th. So just want to keep that on your radar. Also, I want to let you know that we've set up a task force of Rotarians to address and start to think about the pre-K preparedness transformational focus. And we're going to be meeting next week to see how we get started on this, big picture ideas, the process, and the way forward. So I will keep the club informed as we move forward with that. All right, let's get to today's program. Scott Hayes has been the Health, Safety, Environmental, and Government Affairs Manager for the Toledo Refining Company since January of 2016. He ensures the company complies with OSHA, EPA, DHS, and other regulatory requirements. He also serves as on the refinery's leadership team. Scott's background is in occupational safety and health and increasing productivity, quality, and safety of performance in the workplace. Today, Scott's going to talk to us about scalable, affordable, and reliable energy. Please welcome Scott Hayes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be among so many people that care about the community as much as I do. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. Some of my neighbors are here. My cousin is here. My friends from work are here. Don Yerkes, I haven't seen you in years. Good to see you. I just saw you over here. You ever want to copy someone do an introduction, you never forget Don Yerkes is in the room when he introduces himself. He's very unique, and I love him. But it's good to be here. I hear it's customary to tell a joke. The speakers and I'm one of those that I hear jokes all the time, and I never remember them. But I do good impressions. Guess who this is? $10 if anyone can guess it. It's me, Scott. I knew you'd like that. All right, so I do work for Toledo Refining Company. Most people know Toledo Refining Company is the old Sun Oil. I work for the company that bought it. It was a scary time in Toledo. Whenever refineries, that they're up for sale. There's a lot of jobs that go with those. And this place has been on the east side of Toledo and Oregon. We straddle municipalities since 1897, so 130 years. I can tell you, we own refineries in other places in the country, and Toledo really respects having a job-producing, tax revenue-producing machine like a refinery. Our economic output to the region is about $5.4 billion annually, and that's when we're not having a very large maintenance-intensive window type of what we call turnarounds. They're called outages in other industries or shutdowns in the automotive industry. We call them turnarounds. So even when we don't have those large, very, very large projects where we have a couple extra thousand people working on site, it's a significant contribution to the economy in the form of tax, in the form of all of the special resources you need to run a refinery. So I am not the, I must have sent an older version of my resume. I'm not the health, safety, environmental manager anymore, but he's sitting right here, Andy, as is Isaac, Emily, our operations manager, Erica Halida, who is our community affairs liaison, and Aaron here is with our tech team. He's one of the smart guys that gets does all kinds of special projects, so I can never remember what Aaron Coulter's title is of the day, but he's a very smart guy. So I want to talk a little bit today about energy. As we're having conversations, it's really been elevated to the level, I think, of a good national debate. And we've seen a kind of volley back and forth with administrations about our industry, should it be maligned? Are we responsible for climate change? Does the benefits that the industry provide outweigh some of the interventions we're going to need to consider if we continue with a carbon-based economy? Those are all things that we're struggling with, things that we talk about, and I think it's good to have those conversations. But I wanted to share with you some facts and I will submit to you that we're gonna need every type of energy, and I'll use energy I float between transportation fuels, which is what we happen to produce, and chemicals for all of the things that make your life convenient, but also energy that we produce to get electrons on the grid for electricity, okay? I would argue that the statistics are telling us that we need every type of energy to keep up with the demand. And the data that I've got is and the reason it's is everybody's waiting, and the academics at all the big institutions are sharpening their pencils because nobody saw the effect of data centers coming. So a lot of this data that I have, it's grossly underserved, I think. It doesn't tell the story like it would. There's a multiplier there. I don't know what that is, but we're gonna need a lot more energy than even this presentation will show you. Zach, where am I aiming when I do this? Well, gotta turn it on first. Okay, so if you look at this graph, we know that demand for energy, total energy, and that includes transportation fuels that we produce, is going to rise year over year, 21% with just population growth, 16% as people move into larger urban centers, and then the big one and the undeniable one is 67% are going to be considered middle class, and that's something that is a big, big deal. The quickest way out of abject poverty that we can't even understand in this country, I think at times, is through scalable, affordable, reliable energy. That's been proven over time. And you have people in parts of the world that want what we have, and they're gonna get it. There's no denying that they're gonna get it. And you can't tell them that they have to stay poor. You just can't. And so that will be the single greatest driver of demand for products outside of the aforementioned data centers. This chart basically compares global demand by type of energy versus domestic. You can see coal's gonna go away over time in our country. It will not globally though. They need it. It's just, there's no getting around it. They need every resource they can for the reasons I just stated. Crude oil in this country will reduce over time as electric vehicles hit the market and renewable fuels are introduced in greater percentages, but it's still gonna be needed for a long time, as is natural gas, which will even grow. And again, this is pre-data center. Data centers are gonna blow that off the chart. Nuclear stays flat, and you'll see both globally and domestically more renewables. This is just another way of presenting it. This is specific to transportation. And you can see renewables are a much greater part of the equation over time. But you're still, even in 2050, going to need 75% of that portfolio will be traditional fossil fuels. Another chart, this is from, there's two that I cite generally, EIA and IEA. One's international, one is the government data. It's accurate, and it's one of those that are not manipulated by politics, in my opinion. So there's good information that we get from them. But you can see that petroleum and fossil fuels growth will continue even through 2050. This shows global demand, even with all of the renewables. And again, it makes my point. We're going to need every solar array, in my opinion. We're going to need every turbine. We're going to need geothermal. We're going to need nuclear power, which I'm a proponent of personally, to meet the world demand for energy. No getting around it. This is just a quote. Oil products continue to increase and meet most demand and will for over the next 30 years. That'll be much longer than that, in my opinion. So even if you go, there's a lot of talk, especially during the last administration, and the new administration kind of rolled back some of the aggressive policies toward electric vehicle adoption in the country. Norway is kind of a fun case because Norway is one of those countries that has 5.3 million people, and they have this enormous, I don't know how many $1 trillion worth of rainy day fund they have, but it equals to like $250,000, $260,000 a person. So they have the ability to throw money at problems. And the problem that they wanted to engage was 100% electric vehicle adoption. And so they provided all kinds of subsidies and reasons why you would want an electric vehicle. They built out the infrastructure, something we didn't do in this country. When we tried to mandate it, they built it out. It was relatively well thought out, and the incentives were good. People liked the product, but yet there was still, the demand for fossil fuels rose over that time period. And the reason for that is heavy duty diesel's still preferred for heavy duty applications. It takes a long time to retire fleets. People just didn't turn in their old gas-powered internal combustion engine fueled cars. And you need it for all of the other things that make your life convenient. So we talk a lot about diesel jet fuel, but rarely do we talk about the precursor chemicals that we make that goes to market to fuel Ohio's third largest industry. I don't know a lot of people realize that. Our third largest industry in Ohio, by two different measures. One is in job, and I think it's not number of jobs, but the wealth created by those jobs. And market share is the petrochemical industry. So if you think of like the Dows, the DuPonts, Sherwin-Williams, Procter & Gamble all have footprints here. They might not have their corporate headquarters here. A couple of them I cited do. But they have production facilities here in Ohio. And the refineries here in Ohio, we have 3.5 really. We have 4. One of them is real small. 2 of them owned by Synovus, one of them owned by us, and then the smaller one on the east side of the state is owned by Marathon. We supply that chemical market, and it goes all over the place, and I believe I have a slide that shows that. Before I get there, we have not built a refinery in this country since 1977. I would argue that we have a very fragile refining capacity in this country, and I believe it's a national security threat. Meanwhile, refineries are being built all over the world. One of the cases I make is that they're not outfitted with the perfunctory pollution control devices that we have at our facilities in the United States. I'd also argue they don't have a regulatory architecture like an EPA. Hell, we have a desk set aside for whenever the EPA wants to come into our facility, and we have a very good working relationship. We try to get better together. But you can see where these projects are. There's been more announced since then, but they're building very large refineries because they know the demand is going to be there. But we haven't built one since 1977. There's a lot of talk about drill, baby, drill. That's a different part of the supply chain. We're in the manufacturing part of the supply chain. So we take the crude oil and we turn it into the products that are usable. We're very proud that we do that. We're not into speculating or drilling. That is this part of the supply chain. The other end would be like branded gas stations where you sell your branded fuels at an outlet like a gas station. We don't do that. Those are probably the more profitable parts of the supply chain, honestly, and that's, we bought up refineries that others didn't want because there's a lot more risk in the manufacture, and all the conditions have to be just perfect to make money. So it's a little tougher to make money and more risk. But nevertheless, I believe a national security issue that we need to grapple with. We cannot afford any more closures. Since COVID, we've lost 1 million barrels per day of capacity, and I believe that's a problem. You can see just if you look at the graphic on the left, that's who's shutting them down, and then the graphic on the right is who's adding refineries, and you can see we've lost a lot of capacity in this country and in Europe, and then they're adding it in China, in emerging markets in Africa and in India. And if you look at just from 2016 on the right there to 2021, how we kind of flipped. We had an advantage with the manufacturing arm of this industry over China. Now they've flipped it. I believe that's a national security issue. Access to energy is not universal. I already spoke to the fact that you have a burgeoning population that want to be middle class, and they're going to be middle class. And if you see here, 46% of the countries not OECD, which are what we'd call developed economies, more Western economies, for lack of a better term, 46% of them, their energy remains coal or traditional biomass. Does anyone know what traditional biomass is? Anything you can burn. So palm leaves, but number one on that list is animal dung. And some people cook by burning that in parts of the world that are far less fortunate than we are lucky to live in this country. When I talk about abject poverty, I don't really believe we can conceive how poor some parts of the world are. All right, if we were to live without petroleum, let me see if this works. What do you think, Zach? We can do it? We tried.
Have you ever considered how much your world depends on petroleum-based products?
You get the idea, right? That there's so many things that we don't think about are carbon derived, and this is not accurate, because if this were accurate, his underwear would have fell too, because the elastic. This graph just shows some of those products that are, even 73, I've heard 76% of electric vehicles, the interiors are petroleum-derived products. You can see the others: musical instruments, medical devices, your iPhone, pretty much anything that's tangible in your life. Plastic containers for food, you can't make a refrigerator without. And you'll see on the right, it's a little hard to see over here. This graph basically speaks to the fact that I've made that you're still going to need, even in 2050, if we were to go much more aggressive with electric vehicles, you're still going to need heavy-duty vehicles are going to take a while to catch up. The technology isn't quite there yet. I think it will be someday, but it isn't. Same with planes. But the other uses, industrial uses, which is the precursor chemicals I talked about, that is going to remain a need, and for forever. I can't see that ever going away. So you're going to need refineries, at least for that, even if you get away from transportation fuels, which I don't predict we do. There's some of the places we send stuff off of. We actually tracked, this was a hard exercise, but we tracked our chemicals and where they went all over the supply chain, and it's difficult because they might go to a chemical plant in Delaware, Ohio, where they complex the chemistry, they add chemical groups to it, they make it a little bit different, then they send it to another one, and then another one, and then another one, and they continue to complex the chemistry till it ends up at a plastic injection molding shop or something like that. Okay, so there's a lot of turnover there, but we were able to track our products to some of the things that are represented there. I'm not going to talk about that. This was, this generated a lot of discussion, I think healthy discussion for the good of the country, is how do we adopt, if we believe electric vehicles are friendlier to the environment, how do we develop a plan to get there, and how quickly can we get there? And what we learned was it's a lot harder to get there than anyone thought, and mandating it quicker than we can build out the infrastructure, grasp control of the supply chain of the things you need, like precious metals, you're putting yourself at a significant disadvantage. It just talks about the disparity and who really owns the clean energy market. I mean, you got to give it to China for being very prospective when they went out and they bought rights to all the lithium mines, and they bought rights to other precious metals. If they didn't have it in their country, they went to other countries, and they're really building out a lot of the infrastructure in Africa. I'd argue we should be there, making good trading partners. But this is one of those things where I think it was a well-intentioned effort that backfired. We made a pact with Europe to not build any energy projects in the developing world that were fossil fuel. Guess who did? China. And so they're coming in. So these great companies in the United States like Fluor and Bechtel and Rudolph Libby and all our great construction companies could be multinational, global, have global gigs all over the world building out their big power plants. But we are not doing that. And I think China's really making inroads on the complete supply chain. And again, this is an advantage they have that I think our policy was short-sighted and will come back to bite us. Toyota, I believe, I had permission to use this slide, I've used it a lot. I think they had, when we talk about transition, I think they had it right. And their CEO was much maligned. People went after him for saying, we're going to need the internal combustion engine for a long time, but the way to cleaner fuels and cleaner transportation is through hybrids. And so what this graphic shows is that for every one battery electric vehicle, that's what was on the table last administration, that we want to go 100% battery electric vehicle over time, instead of what Toyota and others, me and others would recommend is, let's look at hybrids first, get people used to plugging in their car or recharging the car by an internal combustion engine, uses a lot less fuel and uses a battery that doesn't require all those precious metals that we don't have in the supply chain. The battery electric vehicles have humongous batteries. They're very large, and they are, it takes a lot of precious metals to fill them up. And so Toyota did an analysis, and for every one battery electric vehicle, it would take the same energy to make 6 plug-in hybrids, electric vehicles. They're kind of somewhere in between that and a traditional hybrid, or 90 hybrids. So they, I think they had it right, but did not win the argument. I think it should still be on the table when we look at how do we transition over time. All right, I don't know whether I should play this one or not. This is I'm being a little naughty if I play it. You ever heard of Michael Moore? He's a satirist, and he kind of hits below the belt sometimes. But and I don't agree with everything. And I think context is important. I could show you some of our industries that are the same thing, but this is a video on how solar arrays are made. Is there anyone here from First Solar? I love First Solar, and this is nothing to do with them. And I've stood up here and told you that I advocate for more solar panels. I really believe we need all of it. But this is a video that shows how you got to look at the life cycle of how things are made when you do these calculations of what's friendlier for the environment. So he took it to a Michael Moore level and shows you how clean green energy is in a show. It's on Discovery, Planet of Humans, or of the Humans. If it doesn't play, I have half a chance of getting out of here without being a complete asshole, I guess. All right, so anyway, there's actually a last one. They cut down like a 2,000-year-old yucca plant at the very end, which is, that was funny. But the point here is there are things to be concerned about, especially when you talk about how cobalt is mined in the Congo. And if you want to research that further, it's widely available on YouTube. It's reported. I mean, it's an element we need for our cell phones, other things. But there's a real human rights issue with that. And I play that video just to tell you that everything has a consequence, and you have to look at everything in context and understand when we're making problems worse and when we're not. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if we have time, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there. I'm over here.
Hi.
So I have to be crystal clear. Our second largest client is Wisconsin Energy Corporation, and I've worked with just about every steel company. And so I have been wondering, and I'm hoping you can answer a question for me about electric vehicles. So my understanding is that electric vehicles require electricity, and electricity is generated by about 75%, maybe even higher now, natural gas and coal, right? And every coal plant that I've ever been in, natural gas too, has amazing technology to clean out emissions before they go out literally as vapor into the air. So there's that. And then automobiles require fossil fuel to run, just like electricity requires fossil fuel to be generated. So I can't understand, is it that electric cars take less fossil fuel to generate what? I don't understand why there's so much conversation about this when both of them require energy. And so I'm just really confused. Can you help me?
I probably can't, but I can. I can tell you that it depends on where the electrons come from, how clean it is. In this country, I think we do, as you mentioned, do a pretty good job at the power plants,
Yes.
cleaning it up. But there is, and it's measured in tons of various emissions that go out. Regardless, they both require energy. They both result in consequences to the environment, no doubt about it. The discussion is how bad, and the answer is, from my perspective, it depends on where it's made, and it depends on how much energy it takes to pull the precious metals out of the ground and then get it here and get it in a usable form. I'll tell you, Chet Thompson's our industry group, CEO of our industry group, the AFPM, and he talks about we need to have a level playing field where we talk about the life cycle energy that starts from when it's an all-in comparison. If you just look at emissions from a tailpipe, EVs blow it out of the water, right? It's not even close. But when you look at the whole life cycle, it becomes a little bit closer. And I'll tell you, I think just as we've evolved, if you look at emissions to produce fuel over the years, the graph would look like this. Because we get better all the time, we continue to. Every project, I mean, my team here could tell us, I mean, I can't remember a project we did a major project that wasn't to make either the fuel or the process cleaner. We have people that go around, we pay people that go around with sniffers, and they measure every valve, every compressor housing, and to try to find leaks. And if there is a leak and there's a release, we have so many days to fix it. It gets on an accelerated schedule. It's called our LDAR program. In other countries, again, I'd use a tagline from Toledo, it matters where you make it. I'm advocating for cleanest place to supply world demand. To supply it is right here. We should be exporters because we do it cleaner. We know there's going to be demand, regardless of if we don't want it, there will be demand. We should supply it.
Yeah, my question is regarding new refineries. I was reading 2 weeks ago that in Nigeria there's a businessman. They dub him as the Nigerian Rockefeller. And he's building the biggest factory in the world. And if it becomes operational, it's partly operational now.
Dagodi, I think, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Isn't that
So
Dagodi?
my question is, why can't we as a country with so many resources can build a new factory?
Yeah.
And I think the industry has found a way around it. They take an old factory with no permits and modernize that. So my suspicion is that we have new refineries, but we don't call them new.
Yeah, so there have been, so I'm with you. We should build a Dagodi. Is that how you pronounce it? Dangodi. We should build the biggest ever that is the cleanest operating, the most efficient, that recycles all the processes, all internally recycled. I believe we should do that. It's very hard to get consensus on how do you permit something that big in this country. There's just, until we stop beating each other up, that would be a hard one to pull off. But I think it would be for the betterment of the nation if we did. And we could make it, like I said, cleaner. And yes, this Dangodi thing, it's up, it's, I don't know, 20% operational, but that'll be something to watch. Yeah, I wish we could repurpose old, permits that are out there. I wish we could make investment, but it just, I don't see it happening. So my call is to, let's preserve what we've got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would love your take on the data center that is going up in Middleton Township. It is if anybody's driven by there, it's a huge amount of land, a huge amount of construction, and there's a lot of construction jobs right now. But when it's up and running, there's only going to be 50 permanent employees, and it's going to suck a ton of energy, right? So are they good things? Are they not good things? And what would you want our politicians and those decision makers to know about the implications of a project like that?
My belief is that they are a good use of a productive land if we're not in a food crunch, if we don't need those acres to feed people. As far as job producer versus not, I know I sit on a board in Oregon. We had an opportunity in the electric vehicle supply chain to use a piece of property that had been assembled, contiguous, large piece of property, to go after as part of the electric vehicle supply chain. That didn't end up happening, and that would have been a large income tax producer because there would have been a lot of people working there, to your point. I've been told that the deals that they make for property tax outweigh what you would get with income tax with a large job producer, because it's based on the value of the precious metals inside, and these servers have all the metals that we've been talking about, and they're worth a whole lot of money, and you're changing them out all the time. And so the contributions to the school system and to the operations of the city, in this case, was far better. That equation was way better than if you would have put a big GM plant there, for example. I think it's case by case. I think there's always a process for people to weigh in. People can be affected by it. I know Alec, he's out there. He's worked on a bunch of these. We need them. As far as a few things have changed since I was aware of what data centers do. One is we were always told that they require all this water. And they've, just in the short time that this has been on my radar, they've come up with a process using a chemical similar to what you would use in your air conditioner to cool down the process. My understanding is, yes, there's a concern about that's gonna use a lot of energy. What's that gonna do to the grid? Well, Ohio passed a bill at the end of last assembly session that allowed for permitting behind the meter. So they can now, it's much easier for a company to bring in their own turbines that generate their power so it doesn't interrupt the public's ability to pull off the grid. Alec, did I say that right? He's been very involved in this much more than I have.
I actually came here to ask two questions, and one of them was about House Bill 15, so I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. To try and wrap it up and bring it back to Toledo, can you give us some insights, as to what you think, I guess, it would do to Toledo's economy should Toledo Refinery, Synovus have to close, shut down? Would we be in dire straits?
Of course, I'm going to tell you that. Yeah. Shit, I'm out of a job. That sucks, first of all, right? But I think the number of suppliers that we have and external experts that we have and all the job multiplier on refineries in the Midwest, there's a group called IMPLAN that measures this type of thing, is at least 16. The smallest number I've seen is 16. So that means for every one job, and we average, if you count the contractors, we average 800 or 1,000. It used to be 1,200. Now we're closer to 1,000 because we're becoming more efficient. Thanks to Emily and the group sitting at the table, certainly involved in that. So one job equals 16 either induced or indirect jobs. And there's no other industry that has that, and it has to do with those reasons that I cited: complexity, outside resources, things you need to pull off an operation like that. So I think it would be devastating. You don't want to lose that tax contribution, and you don't want to, I think it'd be terrible for Ohio because you disrupt our third largest industry. If nothing else, you would disrupt, I mean, hell, we supply 74% of all Detroit Metro's aviation fuel. We're #1 supplier to Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. So it would be very disruptive. They'd have to look at, I don't know how they'd make it up. There's no good way to make it up based on what the infrastructure dictates.
Thank you. Scott, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate your presentation and recognition of your efforts. We want to present you with this book, Historical Tales of Toledo. It's written by our own past president, Clint Mock. We'll also make a donation in your name to the Polio Plus Fund, which is Rotary International's efforts to eradicate polio from the face of the planet. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Next week, we'll be joined by Sylvia Roop. Sylvia is the lead foster parent recruiter with Specialized Alternatives for Families and Youth. The following week, on September 29th, will be Mayor Wade. If you haven't already responded or RSVP'd, we need you to do that if you're bringing several extra guests, and you can do that in the Spoke. Jackie set something up in the Spoke for that. Also, October 6th will be our Service Above Self Day. So there are projects that are already lined up for our meeting of service in lieu of a lunch. So please go to the Spoke and sign up for a project. I'm sure you're going to find something that you guys would like to do in one of those. And then finally, this Thursday coming up is a happy hour. So membership has a happy hour at Toledo Pickle from 4 to 6. So please feel free to join them for that. I did want to also appreciate and recognize Zach today. Great job. Dominic was out today, and so Zach, you did a really good job of pulling up and helping out in the meantime. So thanks, Zach. And there are 4 committee meetings today. Program Committee is going to meet in Summit A. Disability Services is in Summit B. The Peace Committee is in Summit C. And then later today, Community Services got really creative and decided to meet at Mommy Bay Brewing at 4:30. So I don't know which one you choose out of all those. That's a tough choice, right? So, but you're here now. You can pick one of the other service committees. So remember, the grants are in and everything else. So appreciate your guys' time. Please go out, have a great day, and unite some folks for good. We're adjourned.